It's the match preview, and look, we call these the big match preview, but this really is the big one. It's Luton Town going down the M1 to Watford, and with me to preview this game, give his thoughts, is my co-host. It's Mark Ryman. How we getting on, Mark?
Yeah. Dreading it. Also, just think we needed to have got at least 3 points from the last two games to have really pushed on for that game as well. Yeah, dreading it a bit. If the last one was 4-0 and that was the season we went up, what's this one going to be?
Yeah, right. You know what? We'll talk score predictions at the very end. But you know what? We beat them 3-0 at our place when
I know.
when it was looking pretty bleak. You know, we just come off the back of the 5-1 against Borough. So you never really know. Form goes out the window with derbies. It really does. I'm personally dreading it. But first, let's look back at the last game. So Ryman just corrected me off camera that it was actually after another international break, wasn't it, that we played Watford? But it was after Sheffield United that we played Watford. Yeah. And I remember because I was calling for Edwards to go then, and then all the rumours went round, I think, that he was... No, was it Borough? I don't know. There were quite a few rumours, weren't there, that he was leaving?
I think Sheffield United one, I don't think anyone really thought he was going to go, but that was the first time his post-match was hidden by the club, all of that stuff.
And he was waving. He was waving to the crowd, to his family, allegedly.
Well, I think. And I mean, look, obviously there was reaction there. We played well. We scored 3 goals and conceded none, which... I feel like is a million miles off, but we'll talk about that when we talk about the game last night, right?
Yeah, and look, I was perhaps a bit too reactionary, although I do believe that we needed 3 points from that, mainly because it was a 6-pointer. It was a team directly above us. If we have actual plans to get out the relegation zone, you have to win these games. That is the game you have to win to leapfrog the team directly above you, and also potentially go level with the team just outside the relegation zone. It was a game in hand, and we look good in bits. We look good in parts. I think Izzy Jones is really coming to his own as a player. We really need to use him. We didn't use Asgard enough. We're just bypassing the midfield, and Cal Naismith looked great, and the goal was a sloppy one. Errors across the board for that between Bell and Kaminsky. Kaminsky could have done better with their one, but taken goal for us.
Yeah, if you sounded doom and gloomy, I hate to think what this is going to sound like. I mean, I agree. I thought Cal Naismith was my man of the match. He was excellent. He was everything we wanted Cal Naismith to be. He was absolute class on the ball. His long diagonals were fantastic, and more often than not, they found a man. He was calm and composed, getting the ball out from the back. I don't think that he lost his man once. He controlled the back line. So there's your absolute positives, and it was great seeing him with the captain's armband. Says a lot about our lack of leadership that technically a player on loan suddenly gets it, but fine. I think it was definitely the right
captain.
Call. Yeah, and
he was captain last night as well.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. Yes,
says
a
so
huge
much.
Man. Yeah, and that was great. I think if I'm being brutally honest, the players we signed from League One looked like players from League One last night. I think Asgard, although he didn't get the service, didn't have a good game. Every time he tried something, it didn't come off. His crosses were all over the place. He took too long on the ball, got the ball taken off his feet. Fair play to Plymouth. I think they defended resolutely. They knew what they were going to come up against, and they did it. They did the job that they knew they had to do, and they're fighting to stay in the league. Arguably, that's what you need to do away from home. So fair play to them against a team that just doesn't look like scoring. You're right. There was some positive play. Don't get me wrong. Positive play, particularly at the start of both halves, as there often is. in games, but we just don't look like we're going to score. I mean, Eli, I'm glad he came off. Surprised he got as long as he did, really, but he just nothing from him whatsoever. But he still managed to miss or didn't fail to get a shot on target from about 6 yards out.
He only. I looked at half time. He only touched the ball 4 times and completed 1 pass.
Shocking. Utterly shocking. And I don't know what's wrong with the lad. He's done a lot of good for us. I'm not going to suggest that he doesn't care, but it does come across that way. It doesn't help that narrative by playing like that. Now, I think Brown took his goal really, really well. I think Nordas's flick on was great as well. I think Nordas looks like a player who is promising, but the biggest problem that we've got is no one can put the bloody ball in the net, and none of them really look like they've got that killer touch. None of them. It shows that how true the rumours about Kone were, but you can see why we were falling over ourselves to try and get that deal done. But if we weren't going to get that deal done, signing somebody in their pre-season from Norway in this situation, really, didn't we need to get someone who we think can find the back of the net?
Better than what we had. He
but
put himself.
But that's a low bar, though.
I know. Like, it's one that we should have possibly done in the summer, so he would have been up to speed.
That's it.
But then he wouldn't have had his season that was pretty good at Tromsø. But the issue for me lies in the fact that once Elijah and Lassie Nordas went off, it was Brown and Ali up top, and we just kept banging in crosses from deep. The issue that I kept saying to the people around me was we weren't getting in behind them. When you have defenders that big, you keep crossing from deep and let them defend with their backs to goal, they'll eat that up all day long. Head them out. They were hacking balls clear. They didn't care if they were giving away corners or throw-ins because ultimately they knew they could defend. But we didn't get round the back of them once and put in a ball from the touchline, other than corners.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Our whole style was set up for long crosses into the box, and as soon as you said, those two options disappear off the pitch, then we sort of left scratching our heads a bit in terms of what to do. I mean, we had plenty of opportunities. How many set pieces we had in that game? I lost count. But, yeah, you're right.
Sending them in against Man Mountain. They're 3-man mountains at the back.
Yeah. I think at one point Plymouth were a really poor side against crosses, but since their new manager came in, that's a different story. They look a different team defensively now than what they did under Wayne Rooney.
They brought in 2 new centre backs.
Yeah, it makes a massive difference. That Ukrainian lad they've got was heading everything away. But I did say I said to my wife, who was sat next to me, who watched some of the game.
Oh, you didn't put her through that, did you?
Well, I say watch. I mean, she wasn't. She was in the room.
Okay.
But she said,
I was getting ready to report you to the police for spousal abuse there.
Making her watch that crap. When we took the lead, I said, I'll enjoy it while it lasts, because I know that even though they've not even looked at our goal in the last half an hour, we're bound to make a stupid error and they'll score. And even if we hadn't let it go in, then it would have happened at other points. I know people are pointing at McGuinness not being on the pitch. Obviously, that might have made a difference. But for me, the issue isn't just about positional. It's about the mentality of just panic. It was just panic. The Doughty clearance was panicked, switching off. Just everything about it just screams the kind of mentality where we know we can't hold on to a lead. And it took us however many minutes, 60 odd minutes to get one goal. It never looked likely that we were going to get 2. And actually, Jacob Brown did have a chance that he should have put away. But this is our problem. This will be our problem till the end of the season now, I think, is that we, in lots of ways, we look better, but it's too little too late. And we can't find the back of the net. And if that's the case, we're not going to win games of football. It's as simple as that. And our defence isn't good enough to score 1 or none and hope for points.
It looks better than it did. Bloomfield needed more time.
100. If we were going to get Matt Bloomfield, he needed to come in the summer and have a season. If we if we're in the situation we were with Edwards, where the board had left it at least a month too late to sack a man who was dragging the entire team down. And it wasn't just on Edwards. There was lots of issues there, but he needed to go a lot sooner. Nobody argues with that, I don't think. But if we're going to do that, if we're going to wait, then we needed a Cooper. We needed someone with experience to come and get this club out of the mess that it was in and reassess. Bloomfield clearly wasn't the option for the time. We were all worried that would be the case. And it looks like it is. Yeah, I'm really worried because for me, that was on paper at least, the game that we had the best chance of getting 3 points at home from. I can't see any other game, particularly when you look at some of the teams coming to Kenilworth Road now, between now and the end of the season, where that's going to be possible.
Yeah, well, I think we needed Rowett. We needed Rowett in after Sheffield United, after Borough, and then Oxford picked him up, and just thinking of teams in yellow. And they've gone on a run. They dropped off a little bit recently, but now they're sitting pretty above the relegation zone. Yeah, it's concerning. And yes, we're not technically down, but we're all but down now. It's one of those.
Yeah, so many things needed to happen sooner. I felt like such a poor way of spending money that we've done this season as well. Like, we spent quite a lot of money now on transfers, probably on compensation for managers. Well, not the one to Wickham was quite cheap, but obviously paying off Rob Edwards, the 3.5-year deal that Bloomfield's now on. All of that money we've spent because we wouldn't spend just a bit more at the start of the season, which is where the money really needed to be spent. A little bit more money then, and a little bit more foresight then, and we'd be in such a different position. It feels now like we're throwing money away basically on a lost cause. I hope I'm wrong.
Don't worry though, because we're at the end of the season if we get relegated. Well, spoiler alert, it's when. We'll have a phone in and we'll call it the finger pointing episode. And we'll let people call in and point their fingers wherever they want. But we got a derby game to talk about. So let's take a look at the team news. So the team news. So Reece Burke, well, he's behind Baptiste, and Baptiste was back, wasn't he? Injured himself taking a shot. I genuinely thought his leg. I genuinely thought his leg had come off and shot into the Kenny end when he took that shot. So Reece Burke, he's out. Possibly Tahith Chong, he's out. Ted Mengi and Tom Lockyer, both long-term absences. Yeah. I'm a bit upset about Tom Lockyer, to be honest, because we're paying his salary. He's club captain. He should really be involved on match days. I think.
No, I tend to agree. I know you've been banging that drum all season, and I think that, well, yes and no. You know, does he need to be around? Do we want him around? But I certainly feel now, and this, the run-in, the situation that we're in, the leadership that we desperately need, he needs to be on the touchline. He needs to be there, or at least, in and around the bench. Completely agree. We need it. We need all the leadership we can get. We need all of the experience that we can get. And if you've got a central defender that has those things, even if he's there, I agree.
Having there as a defensive coach. Also, who's that new signing that's been dropped from the squad completely? Oh yeah, Fanny. Fanny's gone MIA, hasn't he?
He's off. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fanny's missing.
I reckon he signed in the summer when we were third favourites to go up, and he's come in to a relegation battle, and he's not enjoying it right now. So, and Jordan Clark's injured as well. But hey, at least Baptiste is back, isn't he? And Liam Walsh is was good. New signing.
Yeah, Walsh was good. I have to mention that because I'm the first to lay into Liam Walsh. When he's been absolutely pony, but he was really, really good last night and helped control the game. I think it really helps him having Cal in the team as well. I think he was directing where he needs someone like that. But he was good. I mean, Baptiste, an absolute waste of space. He might be a good player in theory, but he can only play in theory because any form of reality will injure him. So pointless having him. Yeah, shame about Clark, but actually, in some ways, at least it stopped him playing him in the wrong position because it was getting frustrating playing him as a 6 or even as an 8. He needs to be further up the pitch. You're going to play. As long as Walsh can stay fit and not 2-foot someone, which might be tough in the derby. Then I'm not so worried about that.
So we need to think about formation. I'm guessing we're going to be sticking with the 3-5-2. I think by virtue of purely the fact that the 4-2-3-1 doesn't work for now for us because we don't have any right backs that can play that role. We don't really have any left backs like Alfie Doughty. You're missing him further up. You can't play Isaiah Jones and Alfie Doughty at left back and right back. Amari Bell can't play left back. He's better as a left centre back, or is he better? Who knows? Right back, you can't play Walters and Hashi. So it's 3-5-2 purely by the way that our squad has been set up over the past 3-4 years. So you're expecting that? No changes?
Yeah, I mean, defensively, we've been pretty good, haven't we? I mean, we switched off against Plymouth, Sheffield United goal, a couple of rebounds again. But yeah, I think overall in those 2 games, it's been better, and it gets Cal in the team. So that as well needs to happen. I think the defence stays the same, really. I would question the front 2. I suppose we'll come to that in a bit.
Well, Colton Morris missed out the Plymouth game for illness. But there's a lot of that going around. Hopefully he's back for the next one. I'd like to see Morris and Nordas play together.
Yeah,
maybe dovetailing could be interesting.
Yeah, I would. I think it limits the way we play, though, as we just said about the Plymouth game. And if we play for 60, 70 minutes with just those 2 up front, then we're going to get into the same problem that we had before, which is long balls. And as soon as you bring either Ali or Brown on, then that negates the same tactics. That's the problem I've got with it. But yeah, good. And we've got to be better. We've got to be better from dead ball situations as well if we've got those 2 big men there. I think some of it was the fact there was no one on the back post. I don't know whether you noticed this last night. So many balls going to the back post, particularly in that second half, and there's just no one there. And that's where Morris would be. Every single time Morris is there. And there was just no one there. So
you'd hope he'd be there.
You'd hope, yeah.
Instead of getting sucked out to the ball.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Those 2, Eli we spoke about already. Nakamba was good. I thought, and I'd keep him playing.
Can he play another game though?
Well, yeah,
he
has to. Yeah. Yes is the answer. Yes, he can, unless his legs have fallen off. He needs to play.
Hold on, he's not Baptiste.
No, Baptiste doesn't need his... He'd just blow on Baptiste and he's out for 6 months. Even Mads Anderson's looking like a picture of fitness compared to that man. Anyway, but yeah, I think he has to, because again, a bit like you said already about the fullback situation or the wingback situation, I don't think there's another option there. Fanny, as you say, is not in the squad for the last 2 games. Who else is going to play that number 6 role if it's not Nakamba?
Pelly.
Quite, yeah. I mean, I suppose out of all the people we could choose from, Naismith would be my second option there.
But then you lose him from the middle.
Yeah,
it could work in a 4-2-3-1 with him sort of dropping into the middle, but then you have the right back problem, and you can't have that. You really can't have that. But shall we take a quick look at some previous encounters?
Oh, go on then.
Oh, it's actually that new section, isn't it? I can't remember what I called it, so I'll call it Haven't We Met Before? So, for this new segment, we're not doing previous encounters because we've done it before, and, there have been lots of great games against Watford, so instead, you need to be checking out hattersheritage.co.uk. It's probably the best football heritage site on the planet. I'm not joking. And for this, I'm using the appearance section, the statistics page. And here you can have a look at who has played the most games against Watford. So Fred Hawkes, one of Luton's legends from the early days, he's played the most times against Watford, 27 times. I'm scrolling down right now to try and find someone from our current squad who has played Watford the most times. I'm really struggling here.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead, can you name 10 players who played against Watford the most? The top 10. You're never going to get this. I'll tell you, a lot of them were during the 80s.
Yeah, well, I was going to name...
Okay, how about the top 5? The top 5.
Well, let's go Mick Harford.
Incorrect.
Oh, he said 80s, so I'm going straight there. Brian Steen.
Yes, he's one. He played 20 times against Watford.
Priest.
Nope.
For goodness sake.
I gave you the top one already. Told you.
Yeah.
You already forgotten his name?
No, I didn't think it was counting. Okay, fine. No, I'm just going to go for the other ones.
Fred Hawkes.
Fred Hawkes.
Yeah, he's played 27 times. And the other person that makes up the top 5 has the same last name as him. One of Luton's most famous players of all time. Amazed you haven't heard of him. He won an Olympic medal with Great Britain.
No idea.
Bob Hawkes.
Bob Hawkes.
Played 17 times. So you need 2 more now.
What decade? Am I still in the 80s?
Still in the 80s.
70s? 80s, 70s and 80s?
Well, they played
through the
Ricky 70s
Hill?
to the 80s. Yep, Ricky Hill 20 times. Same as Brian Steen. And now you're looking for one person from that team that played 21 times.
Seeley. Go for the keeper. Nope. 27 times. I'm trying to think about...
He's a centre-back.
Foster.
Nope.
No.
Played double the amount of games as Steve Foster, this one.
I'm struggling here.
I'll just tell you.
Struggling here. Yeah, go on, you have to tell me.
It's Mal Donaghy.
Mal Donaghy. Oh, yeah.
Played 488 times for Luton and 21 times against Watford. Yeah, it was tough. Do you know what's tough? Trying to find someone from our current squad that's played against Watford quite a few times. I think Elijah's probably played the most.
It'll be Elijah, yeah.
I'm still scrolling down, you know.
Pelly had been up there, obviously, if he wasn't on loan. But even so, we've not played that much, have we? Let's be honest.
Not recently, no.
Not recently. If you think the last time we played, the season we went up, was the first derby in front of fans for however long. So, yeah, it's been a while.
But now it's time to kick it over to Phil, where he met with the opposition. Take it away, Phil. Whoops, sorry, still no Phil. It's me. And I will be talking to Pete from the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast. What a terrible name. Right, let's hear what Pete had to say ahead of Watford versus Luton Town. So, as promised, we have Pete here from the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast. He's going to be giving us some tidbits about Watford ahead of Luton's trip to Vicarage Road this Sunday. Pete, thanks for joining us, mate.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. What a promise to keep. The delivery of me. Sorry, everybody.
Well, you know what? I'll rip the Band-Aid off straight away. I'm dreading this game. What are the thoughts from the Watford camp leading into this one?
I think generally we all know that pride comes before a fall. Look to the last time we visited Kenilworth Road for that again, where it is a derby, and I know it's a cliche, but it's normally a cliche because it happens a lot, which is form goes out of the window. It's not about that. Obviously, with your situation and the result from last night, puts even more emphasis on you needing a result. We need it for different reasons. To kind of, yes, absolutely, to try to get as high up as we can and do everything, but basically to try to make sure that our manager and yes, most supporters of every club, especially Luton Town, will scoff when I use the word manager, but actually trying to keep them in position, because you know what our lot are like. So yeah, I've always dreaded it. I still carry around with me, for your older listeners, the ghost of 93, 94, where you came down and beat us 4-2 at our place. I know we've had a couple of, reciprocal ones that have obviously traumatized you guys as well. But that's the thought. It's always dreading. It's always one of those games you'd rather not lose in a way than win, if that makes sense. It's more important that you don't lose because of the bragging rights and the local stuff.
Yeah, I hate to dredge up the ghost of that game then. So
yeah, I can tell you do.
So it was a bit before my time. My first Luton game was 95.
Yeah.
And my first derby, I think, was actually the one, I was in the home end for that one. It was when Paul Schowler scored an absolute screamer, and then I think it was Gifted Noel Williams scored the equaliser. Very undeserved. It was very undeserved.
Well, of course it would have been. We scored it.
Yeah. So in that 4-2 win, why were Watford so bad that day? All I remember from that, I've watched the highlights, and there was just a building site behind the goal.
Yeah. So they were rebuilding the what is now obviously the home end. Now it didn't used to be with the Rookery, and that had been paid for by selling Paul Furlong, who was fantastic for us previously, and they were building the Rookery. You guys were in what is now the Graham Taylor, was then called the Sir Stanley Rouse, in the lower part of that. And it was good because there was a bit of kind of banter and going off of one another in the 90s, even though we rarely managed to beat each other. But when we did, oh my God, did we? Most of the games
were
draws.
Dredges, weren't they?
Yeah, we went a goal up actually from a player called Jamie Morley, who basically, other than the Luton defence that night, I don't think he penetrated any defences other than Daniela Westbrook, famously. And then you kind of guys started to absolutely take a hold. And in the 90s, there used to be David Priest on your side and Andy Hessenthaler on our side, and whoever came out on top of that would possibly do well. And I think Priest just had a little bit more quality on the ball, and Hessenthaler had kind of will run forever. It was a game that you kind of won out from there. We got a goal back, but yeah, it was one of those where I went in a bad mood for about 3 weeks, I think, thereafter. I'm fairly sure there was an international break, which is why I was again morose for a long time. But hey, it was only 30 years ago, but I'm still holding on to the trauma. Yeah, that's important.
Never let that go. For the younger listeners, David Priest and Andy Hessenthaler, two very small men, but two very good footballers, and two very good players that love to scrap and just kick lumps out of each other.
It was two men with small man complexes who basically were just going to go at each other forever. It was a great thing. I loved it.
But turning our focus to the Watford squad from this season, and I want to point out your home form was tremendous.
Mm.
It was. What's changed over the past few months?
Something and nothing. Basically, we all know that the Championship, more than I think more than any other division that I can think of, is a battle of attrition. And what might do quite well in the first 8 to 12 weeks will eventually, as wear and tear and fatigue on the legs, and it will rip into what is actually ostensibly a fairly flimsy squad. We've got some decent players in the squad, good offensive players, but we've also got not an awful lot once you get past the first 12, so to speak. So as suspensions, as injury has occurred, we were only ever winning during the good time. We had one win, which was 3-0 against Stoke. But as I say, I caveat that with it being Stoke, who we beat 3-0. All of the other games where we won at home were by single goal margins, and typically they were late winners. And we don't tend to start very well at all. The first 20 minutes for us is fairly negligible, to be quite frank. But if the margins are that tight and that close, it doesn't take the barometer to be pushed very far for those margins to go the other way. And that's sort of what's happened at home. So we hadn't lost, including Clev's. He took over with 9 games to go. So 4 or 5 games at home there, and then he hadn't lost until. And we've literally just lost the last 5 home games consecutively. and
That's
our
wonderful.
away form had been dreadful and has now equaled up a bit, evened up a bit, improved, and our home form is where we need to really sort of pick up and do stuff. Because of that, because of course we went on a run of, or we are still in the midst of really a pretty difficult run. The inevitable thing at Watford, which is the manager's future, comes into focus. So that probably doesn't help as well, because what traditionally happens if you do, and we're the only people who know what happens traditionally when you fire your manager every 25 and a half minutes, is you no longer have a manager bounce. And I appreciate you're looking at that and going, well, yeah, where's ours?
What's a manager bounce?
Well, yeah, I get it. But because we've done it so often, the players and the culture become just kind of used to it. And it's more or less a kind of a situation of, well, I'm not going to listen to you as a player, because in about, 3 weeks, you'll probably be gone and there'll be somebody else saying do something different. And that doesn't work. So we're desperately trying to support the manager whilst turning literally and metaphorically lights towards, kind of the spotlight onto the owner of the club, really, because he is the common denominator along with all of those as to when we've been in a bit of a, what's the word? It's not necessarily a plateau, but a real kind of a bit of a trough as a club, really.
Yeah, the way I see it, Watford have been treading water in the Championship, and considering at the beginning of the season everyone was, well, all the external pundits were suggesting Watford are down. The squad
Yeah.
is terrible.
Yeah.
And now here you are, 33 games played, 3 points off the playoffs with a relatively threadbare squad with some key injuries in your squad as well. Genuinely, why? Give some insight, because we all know Pozzo's a little bit of a lunatic. Give some insight into why, when you're 3 points off the playoffs, Tom Cleverley is genuinely being considered to be exited.
I think you've used the lunatic word, which is probably the key one. We got to speak to the man, about 18 months ago now. He hadn't spoken, this is the owner, he hadn't spoken to anybody in the English media, in the press, spoken or film or radio or anything. He just doesn't want to do it. And we kind of managed to get, basically to him with an opportunity to kind of put some questions to him, which was great. And in that time, bearing in mind pretty much the first questions were around, to lose one manager seems unfortunate, to lose 24 seems downright foolhardy. Their perspective at the time, we just appointed Valerian Ismail, was we've got everything right. We've got a great ground, and it is a great ground. I mean, there's so many good things under the Pozzo family. It absolutely has to be said. We've got a fantastic training ground. We've got kind of good players. You go, oh yeah, some not as many as we did, but never mind. And his answer was, no, but the one thing we've not done is get the manager. We've never quite got the right manager. And you go, what, after 24? Can you not see where the common denominator is? It's the person who's appointing these and expecting different results whilst doing the same thing. The apocryphal tale of insanity. And he was asked a direct question, bearing in mind in that meeting, actually the very, very first question was, Rob Edwards, discuss. As you can imagine, because we'd had him for 11 games, 10 league games, one League Cup game, and he was jettisoned. And it was more the fact that it was the chairman's appointment rather than the owner. And then the owner decided, well, I've sort of proved my point. He's not where I decided he should be. And it's this reality gap between the owner's expectations and the reality about what the squad can actually do and what a new manager can do within that time. So we were obviously pointing at it because obviously he'd come to you guys and you'd gone and enjoyed your day at Wembley and a season, but that was an appointment at the time which made sense, and we've discussed this before. But you've got Jones, he was playing 3-5-2. You went and got a manager who wanted to play 3-5-2. He'd had 10 league games. We had not given him a right wing back. He'd been having to play the left wing back on the right wing, which was like kind of utterly stupid. But it was like, there it was. He was a round peg in a round hole for that appointment. And obviously we've been watching since, but it was that's where it is. You have to try to make sure that you are supporting the manager with either time or players or potentially finances, obviously in the upper echelons of football. We don't have that. So you've got to give him time. You've got to give him support. You've got to give him patience. That hasn't really been the case. So no, the fans, because we got wind of this coming out, we had emails going into the club, supporting Tom Cleverley. There were over 1,000 of those. We had a few kind of demonstrations. There's another little group who are kind of equally trying to do it to not only say we think it's time for the ownership to move on. We think they are trying to sell, but also because we want to support a manager. It's really difficult to have a sense of identity of your own club that you like when you're constantly jettisoning people for no reason of their own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is a weird one from an external point of view. It is weird. Like, we all thought it was crazy that Rob Edwards was exited so swiftly. But on the other hand, we're all really frustrated from a Luton perspective that Rob Edwards was not relieved of his duties fast enough at Luton. Right, so for this game, we do a Sluga 6 prediction league. Sluga was a notorious goalkeeper at Luton, but it's a play on the Super Six, and I'll be sending you a list of fixtures for you to predict. The one that I want to hear from you today is the Watford Luton prediction, and just your thoughts about how the game will go.
I think it'll be tighter, and I think there will be a better Luton Town performance than there was last night. I really would like to know why Carlton Morris wasn't involved in last night, because
he was ill.
He was ill. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope that Carlton and his family are all well, and I hope that they recover by Monday, but not before Sunday. Yeah. I mean, the game up at your place, he dominated physically, and I know that's been, the lack of that from your forward line has been apparent apart from that game. If we can not have that physical domination put upon us, then I think we've got the quality to open you guys up potentially. But it's a derby, and all form and everything else goes out of the window. I would personally, because I said earlier on, I more want to not lose it in some ways more than I want to just wanting to win it. I'll take the old traditional 1990s score. It was always the default. It was always 1-1. I'll take that. Plus the fact I do, as you know, I do the predictions on our pod, and I don't let anybody have a 1-1. So it's my default when I get asked the question myself.
Who do you reckon could turn the game for Watford on this occasion?
We've we've talked about people like Quadwo Bar, my favourite of all Quadwos. But he's injured, which will be a relief, because in those early games that were won by a single goal, he was typically the catalyst, either coming off the bench or just suddenly being moved to the right and really good. So that'll be a relief for you. But we've got Georgie Chakfatadze, which everybody calls Dave for obvious apparent reasons, and he's a real Rolls Royce of a player. The issue is his goals and his assists do not marry up with the level of chances that he creates. He's going to be one of these players who's going to go on and, I don't know, go to somebody like Wolves or somebody who will stay in the division up there and look amazing, because suddenly everything will turn to gold. We haven't had a proper firing front line. So either Chakfatadze, we've got a lad who I'm hoping will be fit, but he's also coming back from an illness, from a virus, has not quite looked himself. A lad called Rocco Vata, who we nicked for about 200 grand kind of compensation from Celtic B. And he scored a couple of worldies, but he's a real live wire. And finally, I think the person in midfield who we thought was just a busted flush is a Moroccan-French lad called Imran Louza, who sits in the middle. And in the last 10 or so games, he was completely on the periphery. He played out on loan in France last year and got relegated there as well. And then he'd come back, took a long time to get in. He is now really firing on all cylinders. So I would hope that those guys should play, and hopefully we might go with a little bit more of a dominant display at the back and be less imposed upon, is the hope.
Well, I'd take 1-1 right now if you offered it. I genuinely would.
Why don't we just do that? And everybody can do other things on Sunday. That'd be a great idea.
I know. Yeah, if only.
No, look, we know what happened the last two times, or even the last three times, if we include COVID. The last times we came to your gaff, and let's be honest, when you guys get going, you know, and I'm not talking about the team, but it's a difficult place to come. You know that. It's not telling you any secrets. But equally, the last really, really good atmosphere was when you guys came to us, and you know, the stars and the moons aligned, and you know, suddenly in 2.5 minutes we're up and the whole place is going. And we're not naturally the most verbose people. That, you know, if we had a smaller, tighter ground, it might be, but we're not. So, but that day everything went for us. So who knows? That's why the nervousness abounds both sides, I'm sure.
Well, I'll be there. I'm sure I'll be sitting near Justin. I'll give him a wave from the away section, and I'm dreading it. Really am.
It's it's one of those. I mean, you've had the bragging rights for 6 months, but you know, I mean, let's be honest. You've had those. It hasn't affected my life greatly. If it goes the other way, I'm sure it's not really going to affect yours after the initial, you know, kind of ranting and raving. And as I've said to you beforehand, I don't think you're down. I think there's still a lot of football to play, and you need obviously to get that reaction, because obviously last night, what was his name? Bundu, the number 15 for Plymouth.
Yeah.
Christ, he was a competition winner, wasn't he? Really, honestly, I've never seen a worse player. And you know, you get a break goes the other way, it might turn out. So we will see. But obviously, local pride's up for grabs on Sunday. See how it goes.
Yep. And the losers have to walk back to the station and have stones thrown at them in true Victorian tradition, alleged tradition. It was a myth.
I mean, I don't know what they're doing, because obviously our club don't let us come to you unless we're on a bus for some strange reason. This year they forgave us the Harry Potter kind of wind up thing, which most people went and saw the buses and went, "Oh, you having a laugh?" But I don't know quite what happens with that. You guys seem to have a football club that trust you not to act like children. So, you know, fair play.
Yeah, well, I suggest to everyone, be safe around the stadium anyway.
Yeah.
You know, as always, I think it's very important that everyone just remembers it's only a game. Yes, between local rivals, but it's only a game.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just banter at the end of the day. It is the least important it's the most important of all the unimportant things, isn't it, football? That's what they say. But obviously Sunday, yeah, it does crank up a notch for the local bits of banter. So we'll see how it goes.
It does indeed. Well, Pete, thank you very much for joining us. And well, I'd wish whoever comes on best of luck for the season, but I hope you miss out on the playoffs. And yeah.
I think most of us would be happy with missing out on the playoffs. We've long decided that trying to get to the Premier is like trying to win a competition where the prize is like a night and a dinner out, and then if you win the prize, you get there and you realise it's Pizza Express in Woking with Prince Andrew. You know, you're going to get nailed one way or another. It's just a question of how hard and how often. So if we don't hit the playoffs, we'll be philosophical about it, and maybe we'll get to see you again next year.
Very true. Pete, take care, mate.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Well, there you go. Wasn't that a surprise? It was me again. Sorry, guys. Right. So, who from this Watford team are you worried about, Ryman? I was worried about Kwedu Bar, but he's out. He's injured.
He's out until March, I think, or April even. Yeah. So there is that. Who have they got at the moment?
I think Rocco Vata from midfield
is always good. He looked good. My God. He was, I'm going to go with Chatfatadze because he's probably their only half decent player in the home leg. I know Luther's come back in and started looking good as well. He was, I think, in the home leg he was out of the fold, wasn't he? He wasn't in the squad even at that point. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Chatfatadze over on the left wing. Is he a left winger? Something like that.
Well, yeah, he drifts in off the left. Yeah, he's a fantastic player, and I can see him going for big money in the summer window. I mean, Rocco Vata from midfield worries me because he likes a shot. He does, and he's young, but he's decent. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. They're going to desperately want a result in this game. They're going to be swarming around our penalty area as well, and we're going to have to be rock solid at the back as well, and close down shots, which we've done of late, but we've been guilty of not doing for most of this season. So, yeah, and I think Chatbatazzi, as I mentioned before, he can score the odd pretty impressive goal from distance as well, can't he?
He can indeed. But that brings us on nicely to score predictions. I have to say, I'm sorry for bringing the negativity here, and it pains me to predict it. But I was there for the 4-0 loss the season we went up, and we were decent then, and we're not decent now. I've gone 3-1 Watford. And I think that's quite conservative. I think Watford are going to be bang up for it. They got a chance of making the playoffs, an outside chance now, but they've been on a terrible run of form, and they beat Borough recently, so they've cut that bad run of form out. Their home form isn't the greatest after being so good, but I think they'll turn up. They will. Cleverly will get them going, because after that performance at Kenilworth Road earlier this season, they have to turn up for their fans. Otherwise, they'll get pelters. I'm dreading this game. Dreading it. And there are always goals in this game. Always.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. All of those things sound perfectly reasonable. I like the fact that you've got a scoring, so that's good.
Yeah, that was the optimism there. I don't know where the goal's going to come from.
We often do that away. We take the lead quite a lot away from home. I've gone 1-1 because, as I said in the preview for the last game, it's against my religion to bet us to lose or predict us to lose in the derby. But I completely understand all of your logic. To be fair, I predicted 3-0 in the home leg, and we did win 3-0 out of nowhere. But I think that would take I was going to say a minor miracle, a major miracle, to come away from Vicarage Road with 3 points. I'm going to go with 1-1 based on blind faith.
Well, I hope you're right. And
yeah, me too.
Right. Points. We need points. Points on the board. If people drawing comparisons in the YouTube comments to my latest reaction to the Plymouth one, people saying, yeah, well, we needed a miracle and we got out of a big hole that season under Graham Jones. But, we just come up from League One. We had inferior squads, but the players really, really fancied it and they were trying really hard. It's chalk and cheese to now. Chalk and cheese, because now we have a good squad on paper and we're in a much worse position, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And we had players that could find the back of the net. I tell you who we could use right now, Luke Berry.
Oh, yeah. What's he up to these days? Is he still playing?
Let's not talk. No, don't, because I'm just going to get upset. Sorry for bringing it up.
But that's us done for this week. And remember, this game is on Sunday, midday. I think it's on TV. Sky Sports have hidden it on Sky Sports Plus or some rubbish like that. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Get your score predictions in. Optimism is welcomed. Delusion is also welcomed. And remember, subscribe for even more Luton Town content and Championship content. And most importantly of all, come on, you Hatters.